has the deepest, darkest skin. It's almost blue. And her eyes express such sadness and beauty all at the same time. And I think that in a lot of ways, just her image alone evokes a sense of harmony for me. That there's a lot happening with Anne, and she has a really hard story to tell, but she went missing following the demonstration, and then they found her later after searching for several days at a checkpoint in the custody of police who had no intention of letting her go. So it leads us to the soul should stand always ajar, ready to welcome the ecstatic experience, said Emily Dickinson. We have images of people, I just love this picture of her. She's holding her heart and she's looking into the sky. And for a lot of folks also, this sort of liberation and freedom, this sort of connection with their higher or their true self leads them to a spiritual understanding of themselves. And so we have a picture here of Sherry, who escaped to Kakuma after 6 months of imprisonment in Uganda, where she is from. And after being severely beaten in 2015, occasionally she's still violently assaulted due to her trans identity. Shimida Junko Story is really beautiful. Shimida is from Japan, and she's a transgendered woman herself. Sherry is my best friend. She loves Japanese culture, says Junko. She's an advocate and an activist and an absolute angel. I've been communicating with her online for some time. She says that she's going to resettle to Canada soon, and I think that's really great news. So we're a colorful and compassionate and international community of people. Why would someone in Kenya from Uganda be wearing traditional Japanese dress? And then we bring it into Shimida Junko's story. After my transition, she says, I lost interest in my own beauty because I'm not so young anymore. Rather, I found interest in a terrible struggle for the LGBTQ rights in Africa. Many of them are young, very young, but they can't have any dream. I discovered that I already had some Facebook friends from Uganda. In January 2017, a call for help came through my newsfeed from a brave gay refugee in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya. He broke his anonymity in a bold move to expose the poor conditions and clear danger of the UNHCR-led encampment. What strong courage he had. I thought he must have had no other choice, being faced with the homophobia in Uganda where he can never return, and the homophobia within the camp. He was forced to stay, but to call for help from elsewhere in the world. Other refugees in the communities that host them were so unwelcoming and hostile that I decided to help. My first step was to contribute financially. In 2017, I was very shocked that I could see no assistance coming from Western countries. So you see, Kakuma is a very homophobic place, and no urban refugees want to live there because it is isolated and boring, and so this, my friends, is a bad combination. The purpose for my trip to Kakuma camp that year was to create a safety net for the LGBTQ refugees. She stopped all forward progress in her own transition and traveled to Africa to help these strangers out and became their friends. The purpose for my trip to Kakuma that year was to create a safety net. So we built toilets to replace the ones ravaged by floods that began to overflow into lowland living quarters. We built fences to protect my friends from the sometimes fatal attacks of hateful people. I love these people from deep within my heart. I saw their love as well, and mine grew as they helped each other and prayed for their lives in quite simply a horrific place. I especially liked attending Rainbow Church and holding the children of the lesbians of the camp. In closing, I bear witness to my experience in Kakuma. I will never forget that they suffered. I will never forget how precious their friendships are to me, and I will never forget how beautiful the flower that we have grown out of this terrible mire. Junko Satomi Shimada. That's the closing of what I've discovered so far about the people around the world who are suffering from their refugee status, and also I'm still learning more about the people who are down south in Tijuana, but I wanted to address it in such a way where I didn't turn my back on humanity, but also respected the security and the safety we have here in our own nation. And so I discovered that there are many organizations, one in particular called RACES, who is working together with refugees to be sure that they are vetted properly by our government's rules, that they have legal representation, and that they're sent to places where they will be safe and contribute to our society and become wonderful members of our community. I encourage you to look into those, and please, by all means, sign our guest book so I can contact you with those links. There are people who are expecting my assistance in soliciting your help, and I thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
I see a lot of really familiar faces, and I'm so grateful that everyone is here. I hope that this hasn't been too heavy, and that you have a wonderful, wonderful evening for the rest of the evening. If you haven't had an opportunity, I'd like to introduce you to Fernando if he's somewhere near or available.
I think he's greeting people.
Oh, good, wonderful. Fernando, will you share?